was the one who put the ball in your crib.
I ain't no baby no more.
Dear Lord, deliver Jesus to us.
People make mistakes. People veer off the path. So what? God forgives them. When will you?
Never. Ooh.
I bet he can finally beat you.
One-on-one, and this will be the most important decision
In your life.
Don't blow it.
Today, we're diving into one of the most layered basketball movies ever made. A story about talent, ambition, broken relationships, and the machine surrounding young athletes chasing greatness. I'm Uriah Young, joined today by writer, actor, and podcast co-host Ben Franczuszki.
How's it going? I'm excited for this one.
Professional film critic and Chicago Sun-Times contributor Reginald Ponder.
Glad to be here with you fellas.
And co-founder of 19 Media Group and co-host of the Baseline NBA podcast, Warren Shaw.
What's going on, guys? Let's get another one in the books.
Grab your popcorn and hang with us for a bit. This is Hoops on Film. And today, we're talking He Got Game. Guys, I've watched this movie 3 times in the past 72 hours. I don't think I can fit anything else in my dome when it comes to film, critique, and details. I'm glad to be talking here with you guys about this film.
I love this topic. Ben, I'm really excited to hear your thoughts because, you know, you're the reason why we're here today. So let's get this going.
Yeah, same. I actually haven't seen this probably since college, so it's been a while. So a lot of stuff popped out to me.
Yeah. So I'm glad you brought that up, Ben, because I'm going to hit you guys with our initial thoughts when we saw this film. But first, a few details in case people are wondering. He Got Game was filmed between July 28th, 1997 and September 26th, 1997, and was released on May 1st, 1998. Film locations include the Cabrini Green housing projects in Chicago, Elon College in Elon, North Carolina, Coney Island in Brooklyn, New York, and East Jersey State Prison in Rahway, New Jersey, among others. So let's go back. I'll go to Reggie first. Tell us about the first time you saw this film. Anything stand out to you when you first saw He Got Game?
I just love a basketball film. And fellas, we've talked about this like, hey, basketball, that's why we're all gathered around because it's a basketball film. And what I remember about this film was that it was Denzel Washington and Ray Allen playing basketball. And I know we're going to get to it. What's our favorite scene and all that, but it was Denzel Washington and Ray Allen playing basketball. And so I remember that vividly. And the film is basically about the trappings of being a great basketball player and all the things that can pull at you as you go along. So my reactions were, we always ask, you know, is basketball real and all that, but I'll just end it with saying it was Ray Allen and Denzel Washington playing basketball.
Well said. Well said. Warren, what about you? Tell us about the first time you saw this film and what were your reactions to it at the time?
Yeah, it's funny because I know we were chatting off air and I saw it, you know, I was in college, I guess, at the time. And, you know, I was hyped, just for all the basketball films that were coming at that time. I think Blue Chips came out a couple of years before that and whatever. So I was just in the zone and I really wanted to like it because I was a big Ray Allen fan and Denzel was also kind of in his pocket at that time. I guess Denzel's never really out of his pocket, but I mean, he was zoning out, you know, in those mid and upper later 90s years. The funny thing is though, I mean, spoiler alert, I don't think I loved it as much as I wanted to. I didn't hate it. But I was like, But I think when you watch it later, there's more things. I'm older now. I have a, you know, different brain, you know, more full, you know, cortex or whatever it is. Yeah. And I can understand some of the themes that were in it a little bit better now too. So, but yeah, I was in college. I did see it in the movie theater, you know, with some friends and like that too. And we were all hyped to go watch that joint when it first came out.
Ben, what about you? Tell us about your first time with this film.
So I was in junior high. So I was really deep into hoops. I think that's when you're like peak, like if you're a hoops fan, like you're playing every day outside, watching every game. You don't really have any responsibilities. So all you do is I would stay up late and watch like the West Coast games and inside the NBA. So I was like deep into basketball camp, just obsessed with basketball. So this was perfect for me. So I saw it a couple times in the theaters. And then when it came out on DVD, I really liked it, but I came at it from I was a teenager. So a different perspective than I have now. So it was kind of nice. I've seen this movie since, but it was really nice to sort of see it as an adult. I think that's always really special when you see something like years later, different perspective.
Guys, I have to admit, the first time I saw this film, I was not feeling it. I love Denzel. I love all Spike Lee movies, and Ray Allen. Who doesn't like Ray Allen? He was killing it at UConn. And I remember watching, that was when Iverson was at Georgetown, so I was locked into the Big East back then. But when I saw this film, I didn't see it in the theater. I think I saw it on VHS tape. So I'm dating myself a little bit right now. But I'm glad I came back to it. I'm not going to tip my cards yet, whether or not I've changed my perspective on this film. But initially, when I saw it on VHS, I was kind of like, man, like the story didn't move me. Basketball was okay. I mean, there was not that much basketball compared to the last movie we reviewed with Coach Carter. But nonetheless, I didn't vibe with it. My next question before I kick it over to Ben for his segment is, why are we discussing this film now?
Well, I mean, it's not a spoiler here, right? I think the notion of how athletes are being treated, how people jump onto them, and the way that our society has even changed when it comes to that now, obviously NIL, et cetera, et cetera. But, full disclosure, I work in a university setting, and I'm watching not even NCAA athletes getting deals now. We're watching sport club athletes. So basically almost kind of like minor league type athletes getting deals because they're popular, right? And just that notion of like, hey, you're trying to align yourself with whatever the next thing is. We are just hunger crazed, if you will, for that attention and the stargazing and star alignment. And this film really kind of showcased that in a time where basketball really was on the upward climb. Contracts were getting crazy, et cetera, et cetera. The corruption that was going on in high school and in college, et cetera, like these things are still very much happening, but some of them are actually a little bit more legal than they were now as well too. So I think it's really interesting to reflect for those parallels. But I think just the exploitation of star athletes is a common theme that we continue to see even here in 2026.
It's really interesting because Warren preempted my question that I was going to ask to you guys. Does game feel even more relevant now that the money is out in the open? Or did the legal NIL simply reveal what the film already understood about the system? I think, Warren, I forget you, Warren.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think that's why we're discussing it now. How does it relate in terms of how the basketball environment has changed, but still remain the same?
I hear that.
Yeah,
That's a good point. Ben?
Yeah, I'm loving what Warren and Reggie just said, because it made me think about how it's changed in 28 years and what hasn't. And I would say a lot hasn't. It's still people being predatory towards young men and online sports gambling. It's out of control. So I feel like it's almost more relevant now. Warren was talking about the NIL, so a lot more pressure on these kids even now.
So you guys took the hoop angle, and I'm going to take a different angle. I mean, it's obvious what's going on with NIL and so much money out there, the sports betting, like you said, Ben. But I'm going to take an angle of just Black filmmaking excellence. You look at Spike Lee's resume, you look at his filmography, and you look at what's happening recently. Ryan Coogler with Sinners, and obviously Michael just came out. Haven't seen it yet. Please don't spoil it for me. But Anton Fuqua, from what I understand, did a great job with that. There's so many great African-American directors out there, and Spike Lee he's the person that kicked that off back in the early 80s. She's Got to Have It, School Days, and I'm just glad that we're able to give him some shine and give him his flowers, because without Spike Lee, I'm sure a lot of those directors I mentioned probably would not have a reference or a roadmap.
And I would add that those filmmakers actually let that be known. So when you look at somebody like a Ryan Coogler, he has definitely said that Spike led the way and built a foundation for him. But it would be remiss that you're right. Spike is one of the reasons why our current flock of African American filmmakers are there. But there were trailblazers before him in which he stands on their shoulder.
I feel like he invented the like cast real people. He mixed them with phenomenal actors. Like he was doing that like so long ago, and I think that's just everyone does it now. A lot of people do it now, but he's the original person, in my opinion, that did that really, really well.
All right, Ben, take it away. Give us a little bit about the cast and the direction.
All right, so I'm going to go into Act 1, the parole pitch. So we open with Jake Shuttlesworth, played by Denzel Washington, getting a 1-week release from prison and a mission to convince the nation's top recruit, his estranged son, Jesus Shuttlesworth, to sign with Big State. Jesus is obviously played by Ray Allen. Recruiting drama becomes a story about guilt, leverage, image, and survival. Before I get into the cast, how do we feel about Spike Lee's direction? We sort of just briefly talked about that, but I'm gonna start off with Reggie. How did you feel about how he handled essentially a sports movie in a way?
I think Spike was probably so locked into the sports world, because when you look at it, and this is tipping of someone's hat when we get to talk about all the people who were in it, but he had a lot of the players in it. He had a lot of the coaches in it. He had some of the announcers in it. And what that said is that, in my opinion, is that before we even talk about his direction, is that the sports world knew that this was an important discussion to have, because for them to lend their real names to a film that tackled some real issues about sports recruiting. So Spike was already a leg up because he had these real folks in the industry playing these characters and putting that forth. So from a direction perspective, the first thing you have to do now is to say, well, can we present a real situation? And overall, the situation is real. Is that Warren actually talked about it a little in his intro, is that situation is real. So I think the Spike actually had a leg up with the real people and with the real situation. And when he puts them all together, I think it works. And when we talk a little bit about the cinematography, the way in which it's shot, the Spike is so deliberate in the way in which he makes sure that his cinematographer shoots these things. And I think they did a good job. So overall, I think from a directing perspective, he did a good job in covering some really tough issues.
I think from the directing lens, it's really done, really well done, because he has an actual love for the game, and I think as Reggie just indicated, right, he has all those connects. So it's one thing because you can do that, you can kind of overdo it and just make it this cameo laden, just kind of like slop, but it doesn't feel forced in that way. And maybe because even as a watcher, I know he loves the game, so maybe I'm even giving him a little bit of grace there. But, it was kind of cool to see, as opposed to sometimes I watch something like, oh, they just wanted to bring in this person or that person or whatever. So I appreciate his love for basketball itself and trying to bring in some authenticity with some of the players and coaches and alike that he had it without the film, and directed in a way that it wasn't all just kind of like one shot. Like you'd see a coach's montage and then 20 minutes later, it's a player's montage and then so forth and so forth. So from my lens, it was really well done.
All right, I like that. And what about you, Uriah?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up with the part of this film, which is the common thread is the style and what you can expect from Spike Lee. The montages, the score. I mean, I felt like at moments I was in the movie Malcolm X with some of the lighting on some of the characters, the music itself, which, not going to lie, I think that was kind of the thing that turned me off when I first saw the film, because I felt like some of the music, the horns and the strings, I don't know, it was kind of confusing. Like, is this like a basketball film or is it a horror movie?
Is it Aaron Copland, the famous guy always uses? I think so.
Even at the end, when Spike Lee decided to give that famous shot where the camera is moving with the character, like moving forward. Spike Lee's done that with Denzel in many movies. And to give that to Ray Allen, I thought that was kind of cool in the end credits. But to me, his fingerprints were all over this film with his style and his direction. There's one scene, Ben, where in the climax, when they played one-on-one, father and son, where he had written that part so that Jesus would win, I think 12-0. He was supposed to shut him out, but Denzel decided, no, I'm not doing that. And Denzel started playing for real, and he started scoring on Ray Allen. And Ray Allen's like looking at his acting coach, like, what's going on? But see, Spike Lee said, you know what? I need to let Denzel be Denzel. And that became a great moment for the actors, but also for the audience.
Amazing points. I would say the thing that Spike Lee did an amazing job of was creating New York in 98 and his version of it, Coney Island, Brooklyn, not a side of New York we probably were seeing in 98. Right. He had the world that Jesus was living in, as opposed to just, and the other storyline of him being recruited and his dad and all that. And so I thought that was beautifully done. As I get into talking, this is sort of my segue as I talk about Ray Allen and the acting. I thought Spike did a really good job of, obviously, Ray Allen. We had Travis Best, we had Walter McCartney, we had John Wallace. Travis Best was actually kind of a good actor, low-key.
Yeah.
I thought he was actually pretty good. They did a really good job in some of the scenes of having other people talk and having Ray kind of sit there, especially like Rick Fox is a phenomenal actor. Those scenes were really captivating, but I thought they did a really good job. I mean, dude, Ray Allen was like 22 years old. He's suddenly having to do all these scenes with Denzel Washington. Could you imagine?
Like, I do want to say this, Ben, is that the quiet moments.
Yes.
So you have to give that to both Ray Allen and Spike Lee. For Spike to be able to shoot that and then leave it, but also for Ray Allen to be able to live in it. Because there were these quiet moments that almost to exactly what you're talking about, where maybe someone said something and he didn't say anything back. But his facial expression, the way he sat there, those things mattered in the way that was shot and the way in which it was acted, I think is good. Those quiet moments were important.
Yeah, and it's sort of interesting because Ray Allen was, he was almost 18. He was in his early 20s. And it's noted Allen Iverson was the original person. And it's interesting, it would have been after his rookie year. You said December 97, right, Uriah? So it would have been right after Ray's rookie year. He was only like 21, 22. So I thought he did a phenomenal job. And then there's obviously Denzel Washington. This is interesting. It was, I don't know if you guys had this moment, but seeing Denzel 28 years ago was really interesting. So this is it's post Malcolm X, pre-training day Denzel. And he's in his early mid 40s, and it was sort of this transition into, I really liked this, seeing it, I guess around his age now. I really liked seeing Denzel at that age and not really respecting it at the time in a way that I do now. And then Rosario Dawson was a teenager, even though she's playing a teenager. Important to notice, I mean, she was phenomenal. I really can't believe she was a teenager doing that. Bill Nunn as Uncle Bubba, Michelle Shea as Aunt Sally, Zelda Harris as Mary, Mary Shuttlesworth. I mean, she's a kid. I thought she did a great job.
Yeah,
sure.
Lynette McKee as Martha Shuttlesworth. And then one of my favorite actors was Hill Harper, man. His comedic timing, I mean, he's a brilliant actor. He's had a great career, but he was really good as a young actor. And for him to be placed with all those NBA players is not a small feat. And he sort of effortlessly I thought, did a good job.
He had a little game to him.
What did you guys think about how Denzel accepting this role kind of, obviously he's worked with Spike before, and the challenge of essentially his co-star being a 21-year-old NBA player who's never acted before?
I think I like Denzel as a dad, but in a strange one, right? He's here, he's trying to repair our relationship, and you see him as an actor, or the character, if you will. I think he has ebbs and flows throughout the movie where he's like, hey, I'm here on assignment, so I got to get this thing done. But also there's this bigger assignment. It's like, I need to have a relationship with my family. Like, that's more important than him going to big state. So there's a part where, I guess it's like midway or middle toward the end, where he's kind of like, he almost kind of flips and it doesn't matter. But then he realized, like, nah, I need to get the hell up out of jail. So like, it still matters. Right. Yeah. So I really did appreciate, like, what I thought was authentic, trying to build a rapport there. But Denzel has always been to me, kind of like subtly funny as well too, like just like little things when he's like, he's ironing like his sandwich, in the room, like, you want one piece? These taste better. Yeah, like just like little stuff like that. And I think I'm kind of giving it away a little bit, but like when they were playing and he decides he's going to take another lap after scoring around, that's an old man whose knees hurt and he's happy he scored. He's buying time. He's not trying to check ball. He's just, I'm buying some time right now. So for me, like those subtle things that he was able to do throughout the course of the movie, in addition to, again, try to repair that relationship with his son, his daughter obviously was more accepting. That's why he's one of the greatest of all time.
Completely agree. I did look up Ray Allen. His degree was just general studies. He did graduate with a bachelor's from a really good university. So I was like, did he have any theater background? Was that part of the casting? It doesn't matter if he's a professional athlete. He was a young actor. And so his ability to retain the dialogue in a meaningful way, obviously he's not a professional actor, but he did a really good job. So I want to commend.
I agree. But since we given Ray a little bit of flowers, from a Denzel perspective, he did Denzel. And what I mean by that is that he made you ask the question, is Jake trying to make amends, or is he just another adult exploiting Jesus for his own survival? And when an actor can make you actually ask these questions, is he? Because at one point in time there, the reason he's captivating to me is because he's sad in many respects. His whole situation is sad. But then I think to one of Warren's point, he's still got swag. He still has this swag that he brings to that role, running around the court. It might have been the knees, but it surely still has swag to it. Yeah. And then he holds on to a bit of morals to this whole thing of, well, should I push hard? Should I not push hard? Do I need my kid to graduate? Do I need him to study? So from a Denzel perspective, he was able to bring everything that you would want to see to this father and son relationship. And from a male perspective, the aggression and inability to connect, I understand that. I understand that from a black male perspective, how they were able to play off of each other in that way and not connect, but still have this aggression toward each other. I think Denzel did a really great job. And obviously that means that for it to be believable, that Ray Allen had to be able to stand in there and take punch by punch.
Hey, Reggie, when you said swag, you immediately took me to the beginning of the movie when he's walking into the prison, coming in from shooting hoops, and that same walk, that same swagger stroll that he has in Malcolm X, in Training Day. Denzel is he's just smooth, even in prison, with like half cornrows going on his head. Listen, he brought the gamut of emotions. He had to sell this whole idea of getting out of prison. He's trying to appease the governor who's going to give him this deal, right? And he has to try and convince his son, who hates his guts, let's call it what it is. But at the same time, he's got to be tender for his daughter. He's got to have a sentimental sense of humor when he's like, how's school? What are you doing? She's like, I'm learning science. What are you learning? Cells or something? And he's like, oh yeah, me too. Denzel brings a gamut, brings humor, vulnerability toward the end, kind of when I think it was right before he explained how he got his name, but he gave his son, Ray Allen, a hug. And it was the most awkward moment for someone who's a father trying to reconcile with his son. Plus his son's like 6'7".
He knows he's conflicted as a dad.
Right.
And he's trying to reconcile. So that was like shame. Like I got you know what I mean? It was, that's why it was so awkward, because there was so much shame in his body, for how he's done his son.
Yeah. The one piece of advice that Denzel Washington did give to Ray Allen, because I saw a few interviews in 98, 99, he told Ray Allen, look, just be yourself. And from someone who's an Oscar winner talking to a newbie, a novice, a professional athlete who's making his film debut, I thought that was the best advice he could have given. Of course, he had a great acting coach. And was he still stiff in some moments? I still believe so, talking about Ray Allen. But what do you expect? He's an athlete.
But I think your point is such a great point, because this was the other point I want to make about Ray Allen. The question is, does Ray Allen work because he's a polished actor, or does he work because he actually understands this world deeply enough to make Jesus actually feel lived in? And so when Denzel says, be yourself, he's able to draw on this real experience that most of these players go through. And I think that that's actually the genius in casting a real basketball player, because they actually know, if they didn't experience it exactly, they know this situation very, very deeply.
Yeah, and Spike Lee, to piggyback on what Reggie was saying, Spike Lee, I don't know if he invented it, casting a real person. I think there's some 70s films where 60s films where they just are like, they just like filmed actual like hustlers or whatever, right? Because they didn't have the budget. But Spike Lee, you see it now. There's a movie called American Honey where they cast a bunch of really amazing actors, and then they cast actual kind of like, and they did it with Florida Man. The movie that just won a Nora, similar thing. They cast real people and they place amazing actors. And I think it takes an amazing director to piece all that together. And that's where you kind of get the beauty. And I think Spike Lee this is perfect casting. And I actually believe they were father-son. I bought their relationship.
Before we move on to the next segment, I do want to give the young man who played, and I don't know his name, I should have looked it up, but the young man who played the young Jesus, that young man did a superb job, and he actually set the foundation for Ray Allen to build on when he came into the fold.
The stakes were really high for that kid, and he was nailing it. There are obviously a lot of other famous actors that had cameos. Mila Jovovich as Dakota Burns. Ned Beatty as Warden Wyatt. He kind of crushed it, man. Jim Brown as Spivey. Crushed it. Jim Brown.
Jim Brown, yeah.
Joseph Lyle Taylor as Crudup. Roger, I apologize. Guinevere Smith as Big Time Willie. And Joe Totoro as Coach Billy Sunday. That was a nice surprise. Outside of Denzel, whose acting and performance stood out to most of you of the supporting cast?
It's Roger Guinevere Smith, because he sets the table for what this film is about. He tells this young man, he says, everything is coming at you. You got the girls, you got the drugs, you have the parents, you have the fans. Everything is going to come at you. And he does it in such a way that it feels like a street dude saying, look, dude, I know what you about to go through. And one of these things is going to catch you. His performance, his performance stood out for me, as well as Rick Fox's.
Yeah, Rick Fox. It was interesting. The speech, malt liquor, was part of it. I didn't remember that. Like, that was a big part of it. He's like, oh, that's a good drug too. And I was like, oh, interesting. Cause I didn't even think about like that. It's like a different type of, I don't know, alcohol.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so two things I'll say, and I'll try to be brief. The young lady who played the daughter, like, I had actually forgotten about her role and like kind of like the bridge that she was playing between, Jake and Jesus, and how she was caught in the middle of that as well too. The guy who plays Uncle Bubba, obviously, amazing job as well too. Just a leech, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just a leecher's leech for real too. But I think, for me, also because she's so accomplished as well too, is Lynette McKee. And she's so subtly within the movie, but you understand like the mother's love, right? And it's kind of what's fueling and driving Jesus through the entirety of the movie, if you will. And I almost like it's kind of unspoken about, he's still trying to make her proud as well too, because when Jake was, giving him that work every night, the nurturing of a mom, right? And he misses that, and for her to go in the way that she went. That's why that venom is so palpable, I think, for his father. So I think her role, just how she would say, "Geez, let us at the window," like, you know what I mean? It's like she was so very, very smart and so subtle, I think, with her brilliance to me, that again, I just know she's a really great actress, and I thought her performance was one of the highlights for the supporting role.
Yeah, she did a phenomenal job. But the one scene she said to Denzel, she said, "I know it wasn't your fault. I know you didn't mean it." And you could just imagine knowing that your father was in prison for killing your mother, and she's holding on to the good side of the father. And she was too young to really understand what was going on when the mother passed, but she did a phenomenal job. Bill Dunn, love Uncle Bubba. Like, the guy, the audacity of that dude, man. Don't forget about us. Are you trying to cut us out? Like, that was... It was comedy to me, but sadly, there are probably family members that do come at, younger athletes in the family like that. But to me, the guy that stood out and resonates is John Turturro. He comes out, he's like, praise Jesus. And he's giving the spiel and he's like, don't ruin it. Like this is an important decision. Ironically, he played a character named Jesus in The Big Lebowski. So thought that was a little time.
I'm gonna give a shout out to the women, Mila Jovovich and Rosario Dawson, both very young actresses. Different era, a little bit over-sexualized in a way. And that requires a lot of really digging deep to play those characters, just the vulnerability. So shout out. Mila had just done The Fifth Element, so that's, I think,
that's where she's from. I can't.
But it was before she did Resident Evil, so this was sort of her second big role. Wow. And she, again, these young actors, Rosario's a teenager, Ray Allen, Mila, they were in their early 20s, and they were having to go. They were acting with, being directed by Spike Lee, and a lot of their scenes are with Denzel Washington. So just kudos to them. And Rick Fox, brilliant actor, man.
Yeah,
I mean, wow,
he was great. He was great too.
Yeah.
Hey, let's go check out the assistant coaches.
Man, he's a good actor, man.
He sold that. That.
I think to Red's point with that though, like Rick lived that. Like he, like
for sure.
He lived that.
Yeah. All right. We're going to transition over to Warren, who's going to give us some details related to the cinematography, soundtrack, and some other details. You ready, Warren?
Yes, sir. Act 2, Everybody Wants a Piece. The middle of the film opens the floodgates. Recruiters, shoe brand energy, hustlers, agents, coaches, and the full ecosystem built around Jesus Shuttlesworth. To me, this is where the movie starts to feel prophetic. The basketball looks real. It's authentic, but the deeper tension is how every adult in the room sees value in Jesus before they see the person. And, we talked about this in the beginning of our show here, was exactly that. Like, it opens with the coach playing the very, very, very long game. You feel like, oh, that's the one person who's probably on his side. No stress there. Then you realize, you know what, he's in on it as well, too.
Yeah.
But one of the things, too, and I kind of want to kick it to you, I'll start with you, Uriah, ironically, is that when I watched it the first time, I was like, well, yeah, how is he living in this apartment by himself, right? While he's basically kind of scathing everybody who wants a piece of him, and as well he should. But at the end of the day, he took the money and he was able to reconcile it because it was for a good cause, because he needed to get out of Uncle Bubba's house, if you will, and take care of his sister, rather. He was in on it as well, too. So, I mean, like, it was kind of like the right of first refusal a little bit there, too. But at that time, he's supposed to be 17, 18 years old. So what's a young man to do in that situation? But what were your thoughts on maybe that aspect of, like, hey, taking a piece, but also getting a piece when it suits you best?
Well, I always found it kind of interesting that there were multiple opportunities for him to take from someone else, and he just shot it down. I mean, he got mad at Uncle Bubba, like, where'd you get this car? And take it back. His coach giving him 10 grand. Like, anytime someone says, come on in and close the door, something's not right. So when that happened, I'm like, wow, the coach really is going in. Like, he's going hard. And I just thought that was a great way to show what the average sports fan or just average person would never fathom, is everyone giving you stuff, cars, money, jewelry, Big Tom Willie, like everybody. It was an interesting aspect to view as a sports fan.
Yeah, I actually thought his cousin was sort of the only one. I think obviously his sister, but she was young. But as far as his cousin, Coleman
Booger.
Yeah. He kind of had his back, but then people would sort of use him to get what they wanted, I noticed. But everyone else, you kind of couldn't blame it. Rosario Dawson's monologue at the end, where she's like, what do you expect?
Yeah.
And, she's like, she kind of said it out, and everyone was just trying to get a piece and hustle another person. Yeah, the only authentic guy is kind of what Reggie said, is the guy that gave the guy who was driving around. He kind of just told him like it was, whereas everyone else was sort of telling him what he wanted to hear. Yeah. And then in a way, Denzel Washington, his dad, was upfront about, he's like, hey, this is why I'm out. This is what it is.
Yeah.
And he almost respected that in the end. He that's why he chose that university. He's like, oh, no, you know what? I actually respect people being honest to me. So
Yeah. I like your point too about, Rosario or Lala. Because at the end she's like, it's done. Like, so she realized like, their rope, it was done. So he doesn't even want to kiss her. And he's like, listen, she's just like, let me, she kind of forces it, but she realizes like, yeah, she tried it. It didn't work. And now her time to be in his life is kind of pieced out now as well too.
Yeah, that was such I love that scene. And I thought Ray crushed it, his acting with her. And I love that scene in particular just because of, I don't know. She gave him an opportunity. She owned up to like, yeah, I slept with that guy. And then it was an opportunity and he sort of was like, no. And then, they were kind of done anyway. Just showed like a dead relationship. Yeah.
Yeah. But maturity, for that age.
Yeah.
But I think because of what they've been going through in general, like it's making them grow up so much faster in general to even to kind of recognize when those things, might be at its wit's end, so to speak. Reg, your thoughts and just kind of the aspect of everybody wanting a piece of Ray or Jesus, excuse me, and how Jesus kind of handled that.
Yeah, I think you guys really covered most of it. The fact that just about everyone wanted a piece of his fame, except his sister and Roger Guinevere Smith. Everybody else was, how do we capitalize on this? He had this genuine relationship with his sister, and she just loved him for being her brother. So there was nothing there like, hey, are you going to make any money? I guess you could say that Booger might be one as well. He didn't seem to ask for anything, and he tried to protect his cousin in many situations. But you could also say that because he played basketball with him, that he was going to go along for the ride with him in a way. So the two that seemed pure to me were a big time Willie and his sister.
Yeah, it's wild when the pimp in the streets is the most realest guy in it.
But to Spike's credit, my experience has been that those guys are pretty true.
Yeah,
that's been my personal experience. Is that they showed that in Akilah and the Bee when she was trying to learn, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna help you get over the hump." Is that my experience has been that they be like, "Yeah, we do this, but you don't have to."
Yeah, exactly. Reggie. I love that so much. I really do, because there's people who realize exactly that, like, this is for me, this isn't for you, right? And so trying to make sure that some people don't need to follow in those footsteps is like, you do have those people in various neighborhoods.
Yeah, it is interesting, you guys, because the people that were almost painted on the surface to be the bad guys were honest in the film, and the people that were the good guys were all two-faced. It's really interesting.
That's a good point.
Did that.
Yeah. So I'm going to transition us here to the authenticity of the hoop, the actual basketball. Uriah, he kind of touched on it earlier. There wasn't that much basketball in this joint. It's a little weird, right? So the opening montages of basketball being played across various parts of the United States, if you will, in middle America and rural areas, et cetera, like that was really beautiful. Slow motion action shots, if you will, too. Just the ball going through crates and various types of hoops. Love it. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. And then the only real action we see is the pickup game that's early on in the movie.
Yeah.
And so I was enjoying that because it did have some real hoopers. His high school teammates, air quote, high school teammates, again, as Ben alluded to, Travis Best, Walter McCarty, John Wallace, all those guys were in there hooping as well. So that was fun in essence to watch, but it gave just like kind of a sense. So I thought it was an interesting direction for the film to not really focus on him as the high school player playing high school basketball. Like kind of all that was done. So it's like the season was done already, and everyone was just kind of waiting on the decision. You just kind of have a flash to them hoisting the championship at whatever, they won. And then the only other basketball is him playing against, obviously, Denzel, I think, at that point. So that, I think, was interesting for a basketball movie to have maybe 6 minutes of actual basketball, in it, maybe more than that per se. But I was talking to Uriah off air, and something I'm going to kick it to you first, Reg. So Denzel's shot is horrific. I love Denzel, but that is looking like some Bill Cartwright. He's
Bill Cartwright.
Whatever. Now I'll give him credit. He left the gooseneck up there. When he let it through, he had a nice little follow through. But the fall back and like lean forward. I remember you saw Jokic like make some ridiculous shot.
Yeah, that is a Jokic shot. That's a
That was
Jokic
Denzel's
shot all day.
over and over and over again without this film. So, Reg,
His handle wasn't bad. I didn't
say that again.
His handle wasn't that bad.
No, his handle wasn't that bad. His handle wasn't that bad. But that release, whew. Reg, what are your thoughts on Denzel shooting?
Okay, so I take major offense about the release because when you
that's
see
how Reggie
me
shoots.
when you see me play, you will not, under any circumstances, like my release. And for the people who just listening to us, and I'm on camera, is I shoot from the side. So I'm shooting like this. And because I shoot from the side, I just was taught that the ball just needs to go in the hoop.
It does. You're right.
That's what I was taught. And so I don't care how he was shooting it. What I really wanted to see was it going in? And there's a segment in the film where he shoots 4 or 5 in a row, and you know he's shooting. He actually shot those 4 or 5 in a row. So I love the fact that meant that he was in the gym preparing and getting his game on. Now, so for the most part, the basketball works for me. It's a little bit more basketball than you think, because the scenes with him, Washington and the young son, come in all throughout the movie, where they're playing or teaching. And I think that they use those moments of basketball well. And one of the other things that Spike did here is that he didn't do a lot on footwork. He did a lot of close-ups, so where you saw them scoring and that type of thing. And I think that helped to make the basketball work, because I'm not sure if that was choreographed or not, the scrimmage. So at least you didn't have to see the footwork and see them doing all other things. And give Hill Harper some credit. He did play a lot. That's where he met Barack Obama, by the way, in the Harvard gym, because they played ball all the time. And so that's how they became friends. But obviously Hill had some game, and he looked legit on the court with these other players. So for the most part, the basketball works. And then you add on Ray Allen just with the pure shot. So Warren, here you go, the pure shot. You get that elbow, and he's just putting it through like you wouldn't believe. So yeah, it works. And they did enough basketball to make it a basketball movie, but not too much basketball to make it a basketball movie.
I'm going to kick it to you, Ben, real quick, but I think, going to address Reggie's point. So it's interesting because you're right. You're 1,000% correct. And I feel like I, as a viewer, probably subtracted the notion of the basketball when Denzel was playing with young Jesus, if you will, or, old Jake was playing with young Jesus. Because I was really focused on like the messaging that was happening in there, not even really taking in like, well, this is still actually basketball. I was like, yo, he's just like, he's being a pain in the ass. You know what I mean? He's really trying to push him hard or whatever. And he was trying to teach him more life lessons and even more basketball lessons in those moments. So I say subconsciously, I probably subtracted the fact that I was still watching basketball from it, just watching a father and son trying to kind of exchange whatever the life lessons he was trying to do. But I think that's a great point. Ben, your thoughts on the overall hooping per se, and I guess maybe you don't have to hate Denzel's shot in the way that I did.
It's filmed in 98, 97, came out in 98. I don't think we had Space Jam and we had White Man Can't Jump and Blue Chips. I don't think we had mastered sports with film on a high budget scale. And so I think they were still learning as they were going. And I think this film was probably important in that. I don't know if anyone else is doing this. I was like, yo, Ray Allen, he would be the MVP in the league in this NBA, in my opinion. Ray Allen in his early 20s, when he still had athletic ability, because shooting is such not to make this a basketball podcast, but I think his game would translate to where he would be a top 3 to top 5 player in today's league, just because of how he played. That's sort of what stood out to me.
Yeah.
And yeah, the basketball didn't bother me. There just wasn't enough of it, so that I'm fine with that. They focused on the recruiting, which was sort of the main thing. And the hype around that, Kobe Bryant would have been the summer before. I remember, I'm from the Philadelphia area. I remember when that was like a big deal with Kevin Garnett. This was a rare thing in 97, 98 still, for a player to be recruited out of high school. And that was sort of a huge storyline. And so for me, I thought they did that really well. That was sort of the main theme. So they didn't focus on the actual basketball.
Close that on the hoop shot.
Absolutely. So I loved that how the movie started was how it ended. You had a juxtaposition of father and son shooting the basketball. In the beginning, obviously Denzel's in prison, his son's in the gym, he's playing ball, and then at the end, and there's symbolism behind this, and I want to know what people thought about this, but the end scene when, Denzel, the ball goes out of bounds and the prison guard's aiming a rifle at him, don't go, I'm going to shoot, decides not to go, but then he throws the ball over the wall of the prison, and Spike Lee made it so that the ball came in and met with Jesus, and he caught the ball, and it was like, he caught it, and it was like, all right, what? Clearly it didn't happen like that, but do you guys know what I'm talking about? Like, what symbolism was in that scene? I'm dying to know.
He finally forgave his father. That's what I took from it.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, it was connection. Is
Okay.
that one of the things that they were missing was a connection, and that the only place they really had that connection was through basketball.
Mm.
And the symbolism was that we're still connected.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And I'll be honest with you, Uriah, to your question directly, I hated it when I first saw the film. Like, I hated, like, that's how it ended. I thought, I was like, well, this is corny.
Right.
Like, we weren't in any type of mythical world, so to speak, at any point. And then all of a sudden, like, this magic happens and a ball appears from, whatever he was in Rikers or what. I was just like, but I think understanding it now, it's like I said, it's also like passing it on, passing him the torch, forgiveness. Like,
Right.
all of those things are kind of in that, if you will, too. So I get it from that lens. I think it probably could have been done a different way for my own personal taste, but I understand, the decision, to kind of go there. So I think that's, before I'll say this last thing, when it comes to the basketball, seeing Travis Best and Wallace and McCarty, all those guys play, was really good. Like, I really enjoyed that because, again, they know what they're doing. And, having Ray being the anchor for what they did, I think was a great choice in general. And like, when you talk about the cinematography of the basketball, those moments felt very, very real to me, right?
Yeah.
Very, very real. But as I said earlier, like, the various montages, not only from the basketball side, but when, our guy in the car is trying to talk to Ray about all the things that are happening. And then you go to these quick montages of all the things that he's talking about, the vices in life. We don't necessarily need to mention them all, but all the various vices that can bring somebody down, so to speak. And you're seeing that, right, illustrated in real time. I thought, those were really good choices by Spike. He does a really good job, I think, of kind of weaving those things in all of his films, right? Trying to illustrate a point. So, like, not only you're going to hear it, but you're going to see it, like, truly visually. And then also, I don't know if you'd call this cinematography, but I thought it was a creative decision to often have letters that would have been read actually read, right? So it's like, the person's like saying exactly what they would be saying to their person to try to make it a little bit more connected in some aspect too. So, Reg, as our resident film critic, kind of want to kick that last point to you. Do you feel like that's a part of cinematography, just creative direction? And what did you think about the choices, in essence, to kind of make those moments feel more?
I think it's a couple of things. Firstly, is in the writing, is that you really do have to have some good writing to make these things come alive. And the fact that you caught that it resonated with you about the reading of the letter, I'm so glad you brought that up, because it did for me too. But I had not, I don't know, processed it like you just did. Is that when they were reading these letters and you could hear the voices of the mom, it was very, very powerful. So I think it's in the writing, I think it's in the acting, and obviously in the cinematography because of the way it was shot. There's even that one scene where he was going to read the letters he said he told his dad that he threw the letters away, but he didn't.
Right.
And he picked them up, and how the camera zooms in on those letters so you could see that was him. The last point I do want to make, because we were talking about the basketball being realistic, and I'd be remiss not to say this. If Ray Allen did not win that one-on-one, this would have been the most phony movie in life. He had to have won it. They did it right. Yeah. It made so much sense. And that, for me, punctuated the fact that, okay, we did the real thing. There was no way Denzel's character, Jake, should have won that one-on-one, and Jesus did.
Spike
Jesus
would have never
saved
let
us.
that happen. He never would have let that happen. That's a good point, though.
Well, you got the mic, Uriah, too. So talk a little bit about your thoughts on the overall cinematography.
Look, I think a lot of it is with the editing and the decision, as I mentioned earlier, the juxtaposition. You know, when Jesus was shooting the ball, his father was shooting the ball. There's a moment when they were watching ESPN highlights. There's Jesus Shuttlesworth watching all these people exalt him. And then you see, then the camera goes right to Denzel, and he's a proud father. Like, they're talking about my son. So it was transitions like that. I think Reggie mentioned, or someone mentioned the newspaper clipping where they're playing. It was like a short montage, and Booger goes down his sock and he pulls out like the newspaper clipping, and I'm like, what the hell is this? And then he holds it up, and then it goes to the actual scene when they win the championship. So that aspect of the creative vision of Spike Lee, the editing, the writing, like Reggie said, I appreciate this movie so much more now from a film perspective and a storyline as opposed to just a basketball film with Ray Allen and Denzel.
Ben, as an actor, your thoughts on the cinematography before I move on.
Spike Lee is just brilliant with his telling the story of the location we're in and the time. And all the Coney Island stuff took you right there. I love that stuff. And, you know, he does it with the huge scores and really drops you into his world. And I think it's important to sort of see. And there's something interesting. We were barely in school. I don't know if you guys noticed that. I think there was like a scene where Travis Best and Booger are getting tutored or in class, but we never really see them in the classroom. And I think that's like, I liked that because I thought he's about to not be in school. It's not about that.
It's the opposite of Coach Carter when you think about it.
Yeah,
Last time we talked, it was all about the classroom.
Yeah, and this is a very different story because this is essentially like a Kobe Bryant, Kevin Garnett level, LeBron James level athlete who it's just a different world. He's a superstar. He's famous. So yeah, I think the cinematography was brilliant. It told the story, and I think that's just what Spike Lee does so well. He just is, and so many people have adopted that filmmaking from him.
Yeah, I think really great points. And you had mentioned something about the music in there as well too, and I think Uriah did earlier in our show. And I did find, I think at times, some of the musical choices to be distracting or maybe not necessarily as fitting for the scene. But I almost think that was a creative choice to make things maybe a little bit uncomfortable, you know, for whatever the reason. And then this is one of the first films that I knew of at the time. And then I didn't do all my research on it. But, you know, when one group has the entire soundtrack. So Public Enemy is like, it's their soundtrack. It's basically a Public Enemy album. Yeah. And, you know, PE at that time, PE and Spike Lee films, you know, at that time, is something that he was obviously very familiar with as well. And there's things that really do work at various points of the movie for me. And sometimes where I thought there was some disconnection, you know, for it, but nothing that I just didn't like. I was just like, oh, that's a little weird from my lens. So Ben, I'll actually kick it back to you from your lens. You know, as you were talking about the music, you know, how did the score, you had mentioned Copeland as well too, in terms of that level of influence into the film. Educate us a little bit more about your thoughts there.
I think as a kid, when I saw it in real time, I was not that into it as a teenager, but as an adult, I appreciate it more because of what you said. It draws you in. It makes you feel a certain way. That's the point of it. Yeah, it's not a happy area. It was not a happy time in the 90s for like really anyone. Everyone's like, oh, this you know, young man's finally like gonna make it out. Everyone's trying to take it. So I thought the music sort of was like representation of that. It's not. It's intense. It's like unhinged. Like,
yeah, Uriah, you go, and then you know Reggie gonna lead us into the next thing anyway. So go. What you think?
Man, I'm a huge PE fan. Always have been, and I was so glad that Spike Lee was able to give Chuck D and Flavor Flav pretty much carte blanche throughout the film, inserting their music, their message. He Got Game, the title song, is phenomenal. I love that song, and it just took me back to Do the Right Thing. To me, Fight the Power is one of the greatest hip hop songs ever made for a variety of reasons. And for Spike Lee to keep that relationship going professionally and giving Chuck D his flowers and his opportunity to shine in a movie starring Denzel. I thought that was special. Outside of the score, which you said, Warren, kind of took me out of where I thought I was, I did love PE in the soundtrack.
Reg.
Yeah, I don't know if I have too much to add that other than to say that Spike Lee is loyal to his people.
Mm.
If you look at, we're talking about the soundtrack, but then we're talking about the actors, and then we're talking about some of the locations, and we're talking about basketball, which he loves. He's just loyal to all those things. He's loyal to that. He's loyal to basketball. He missed a playoff game because he had to give Denzel an award in like Sweden or something, and he was pissed. You know, he was like, I would be in L.A. at a game. So he's loyal to the game and he's loyal to his people. So you look at all these people who are in the film and you're like, oh, wait a minute. He got Roger Guinevere Smith. He has uncle. He
Bill
has
Dunn.
Bill Dunn. I mean, he just you kept seeing all these people, the coach. And he did the same thing with the music. So that would be the thing that I would add that you guys probably didn't say exactly, just his loyalty as it relates to that. And I know we need to move on to our next segment, which is really talking about the writing and the movie themes. What's really interesting is the film closes on the father-son one-on-one. You know, I already like that. That's the thing I like. And I think that's a choice between resentment and release, and an ending that refuses easy closure. There's nothing easy about this. And we talked about that ball coming over. The closure part is not easy. Jesus wins the game, but not really total freedom. So Jake loses the battle, but he finally tells the truth. That's so interesting that he finally tells the truth. And that unresolved tension is exactly why the movie still lands today. To me, we talk about all these themes, and I whittled it down to that this film is about family, fame, and fortune. Family throughout the film. You get the Bill Nunn and his aunt, and him and his aunt. You get him and his sister. You get him and his dad. You get him and his mom. You get all of that wrapped up about how are we going to interact as a family unit. Then we talk about fame. I'm trying not to get into being a famous person, but I'm feeling it a little bit. I am feeling this fame a little bit. And then we talk about fortune. Everybody's trying to give me some fortune. So now I got a decision, not the decision of where I go, but how much do I get when I go? So it'd be really interesting, Warren, I'd love to hear from you about the writing and the themes as you saw it. I threw my 3 out there, but how was the writing and the themes in your eyes?
Yeah, thematically, that's why I think I have more appreciation for it here now. Like I said, a more fully developed cortex, as I said earlier. I get what's happening. But I also think there were probably moments throughout the course of the film, outside of the themes themselves, where actors were allowed to act, maybe go off script a little bit as well too, and even feel maybe a little authentic. And something's, because I'm from New York originally as well, and so I think even when Jake, runs up to Lala, whatever, he's like, what are you, Dominican or something? No, Puerto Rico, baby. Like the way she says it, the way she delivers that as well too, as if she was literally offended. But if you're from New York, like that does happen. You know what I mean? So stuff like that, was allowed. I think Spike and team allowed those things to take space. But also, I think when you're going back into, some of those other themes where not just not just the people that were surrounding Jesus all the time, but people in Jake's world, they kind of suck too. Like the warden, douche.
Yeah.
And then the cops who were out there kind of with them. And it was just like, man, so at some point, like you realize like, yeah, there's this convict, if you will, who made a terrible mistake. Right. And he's out here on a errand to try to do whatever he's trying to do, try to recruit his son to big state, but also mend the relationship, as we alluded to, the duality of that, I think, as Uriah alluded to. But then you feel bad for him at the same time.
Yeah.
Because like, hey, like, he's just trying to get this job done, but now he's got all these other factors, like, these a-hole cops just kind of like giving him stuff for whatever the reason may be. And then he's in the hotel or wherever the hell he was staying, and then he's trying to find love and those types of things too. So there was a lot of real moments that I think were very well written throughout the course of it. It does tackle a lot and maybe only touches on certain things that maybe we want to dive into a little bit more. But overall, a movie, I forget how long the runtime was, but I think it did a really good job of kind of touching a lot of different topics, although it did leave me wanting for a little bit more in certain areas, but we needed to move on because the story was about Jesus.
Yeah. So Ben, I'd like for you to jump in on this as well. And with the question in mind, is Jesus hypocritical, or is he just a teenager trying to navigate the system designed to exploit him? And I ask you about the hypocritical because he says no to the money, but he says yes to a whole lot of other things.
Well, that's interesting. I don't think he's hypocritical. I think he's sort of, because you have to remember they're teenagers, and him and Rosario Dawson and his teammates and his cousin, they're kids essentially. And so they're doing adult things, but I think that's sort of what I kept going back and forth on, was like, oh, they're kids, so they're not going to make the best decisions. And we sort of see that represented. I mean, let's be real, a lot of us, our teams have draft picks right now, and all these kids were being interviewed. If you have a top 5 draft pick right now, they're 18, 19 years old, and we're interviewing them like they're doctors, and they're just kids.
Yeah.
And we idolize their talent and we want them. And so I think that's sort of what it kind of tackles. But I would say Jesus, his character is angry and upset about the death of his mom, and then also the loss of his father. So he lost both parents. And I think at the end, you got to give Ray Allen credit. He seems content and happier when he's writing a letter, the acceptance letter. And that's sort of why I said forgiveness. I thought he felt like maybe he had one parent back in a way, or maybe both.
Yeah.
And so I think he was just searching he was an orphan essentially. So he suddenly had a parent back. And I think that was sort of a storyline that was really important.
I think when it came to the writing, I think Spike Lee was brilliant in that he did a few things. He got the story kicked off right away. There was no long exposition. I mean, the exposition and the challenge of the protagonist, or one of the main characters, Denzel, happened within the 8-minute mark. You got to do this. If you do this, you get your son to go to big state, you'll get a less in jail time right away. Also in that conversation, you got to learn the accolades and the prestige of his son being the number 1 player in the country. So they gave us all that right in the beginning, and then the story just kept going. And the one thing I'll say before I give it back to you, Reggie, is delayed gratification is the best friend of any writer, whether you're writing a novel, whether you're writing an article, whether you're writing a movie. They could have told us, the audience, that Jake killed his wife or Jesus' mother, but they didn't. They could have said, oh, you killed your wife. The warden could have said that in the beginning, but he didn't. So I'm like, what did he do? Who did he kill? Why is he in prison? So when it finally hits you, you're like, oh, that's what happened. And I do have one other thing. The name of Jesus. The whole movie, we're like, oh, he's named after this religious. And then when they're walking on Coney Beach Island, and finally Denzel's like, look, son, Earl of Pearl, North Philly. I was like, wow, that's where he got his name. So he didn't have to do that, but because Spike is Spike, he put it out there and he landed it.
Yeah, he did. And that goes back to, I think all of you guys talked about how Spike is a lover of the game, is that Spike wanted to also put some history on Earl's name.
Absolutely.
He wanted to put some respect on that guy's name and say, look, you don't know? You guys think it was the Knicks? Earl Monroe? Nah. Y'all don't know. Let me break that down. I see both Warren and Ben shaking your heads, so I'd love if you got a comment on that.
I think that's an important point for sure, right? And to know that as a lover of the game, you want to pay homage to those who maybe not everybody kind of knows about, right? And so Denzel would have grown up in that era as well too, for real. right? Not just Jake, but Denzel himself would have even known that, and would have been like important to kind of highlight. I actually want to harken real quick to something Uriah said, because when it comes to the writing, I think in making Jake so believable and the delayed gratification, as you alluded to, I thought that was like, that's the perfect, terminology. But also the fact that Denzel does not lie. He doesn't make excuses. Because when he's talking to Mila Jovovich, he's just like, hey, I killed my wife. Right. And he's not like on accident. You know what I mean? Because I think that would have been anybody else's most natural thing to say. Like, hey, this is kind of, you know what I mean? And then maybe through the story, he explains that clearly he didn't do it on purpose, but he doesn't make it seem like he's not looking to be acquitted for that, because he knows it was the wrong thing to do. And I think that was a great writing choice, if you will, to make him be accountable in that moment for something that was so horrific.
Yeah, it's funny, Reggie. I was thinking while watching it, I was like, man, Spike's doing great right now as a Knicks fan. I was like, they might get over the hump. And I was like, oh, he would have written this as like his childhood hero. He wanted to incorporate that into the film, right? Because he would have been a kid when the Knicks won. Yep. So he would have lived. And so what a great memory. So he's like, I got to incorporate this. And I actually wonder if it was the whole, I imagine the name Jesus for Ray Allen was from Earl to Pearl.
Yeah.
And so
that'd be like you've been writing a script and putting Allen Iverson in it. Paying homage to AI.
I know.
You better get on that, man. Get on that, man.
Yeah, well, they're about to, I know we're many decades. No, either team has a championship. And then, Warren, I noticed that. I noticed what you just said, that scene where Mila Jovovich, Denzel's like, yeah, I killed my wife. And it was very matter of fact. And I think the point of that is to show, like, not there's levels of criminals, but like Denzel had a bad day. He obviously was a character with a temper, and it was essentially an accident. He didn't use it as an excuse,
and he was drinking. I don't know if you guys picked up on that.
He was drinking.
You're
right.
He was. I don't know. I was like, he's like a brown paper bag. It could have been a bottle of whiskey or a 40, but he was drinking.
But he was very like, you're right. He was up. He felt like he deserved the time. I'm with you, Warren. Like of the accident that he did. Yeah.
All right, so I have He Got Game by the numbers, and Warren and I, we were astonished at this number that I'm going to throw at you guys. So the production budget that year for the film was $25 million, $7.6 million opening weekend, and the worldwide gross was only $21.57 million. So He Got Game seems as though no matter how much star power you had with Denzel, didn't really resonate or bring audiences to the theater. What do you guys think about that?
Sure. I mean, slightly surprising. I think, given, like you said, the star power that was there, and Spike was still very well known at that time. So I don't know what the disconnect would have been, especially for a Denzel Washington movie as well. So I don't know if it's subject matter or whatever, but I mean, I was hyped to see it. And then, as I alluded to, not as hyped coming out of it. But I just don't know if people waited to see the reviews or whatever happened in that situation. But I think that is a very, very interesting, kind of note about this film for something that really should have did so well. And I'll say one last thing too. When you talk about the montages, but but just plugging in different people throughout the course of the film. Like Spike knew what he was doing. Like, because you don't see Mike until like the very end. You know what I mean?
That's right. MJ.
Like,
MJ wasn't there.
And so like the whole time, like even as I was like, oh, is he going to get, like even I knew, I was like, is he going to get Mike? Is Mike going to appear at some point? So the fact that does kind of pay off, I guess, to some degree, even as subtle as it was. And, I don't know. I feel like Jordan didn't really want to do that either. He's like, he got out there. But again, to your point, Uriah said, in terms of the money that it made, it definitely underperformed from, I think, what everybody would have expected going into it.
Reggie, were you surprised by that? Didn't really take off financially?
Yes and no. Firstly, the 25 million is a little more than on par for what they were getting for those movies back then. They were getting probably somewhere between 15 and 20. So Spike got a little bit more just from a budget perspective. That opening weekend is respectable. You would think that the drop off would be half, and then you keep going, and you would probably at least make your money back in the States. But this is the worldwide gross. So interesting that it didn't have any staying power, and the no is that it is known that the studios will say that black films don't have an international market. So what I would have done is going back and looked at what markets did it actually play in. Because if it didn't play in China, if it didn't play in Japan, if it didn't play in these other markets on the screen, then of course, this would be why that would be there. And then the other thing, the yes and no, is that while it's not 100% or 90% on Rotten Tomatoes, it's 80% on Rotten Tomatoes. So when you look at what the fans were saying, this is a film that overwhelmingly fans like, and you can say overwhelmingly when you get to 80%. So there's a yes and a no to that, and interesting looking at how we have different perspectives of the film today. Hey, it's interesting, indeed.
Ben, as an actor, what's your take on not really hitting the mark financially with this film?
So it's surprising. I was shocked to hear that, to answer your question first. Yeah. But like, we're all like in our own basketball bubble. So like, I'm like, what? Like a little bit like, how could you not like be obsessed with anything basketball? So that's sort of, when I step outside of that from just a filmmaking, it could be, because I was trying to piece together, like, what if Kobe Bryant played Jesus? What if LeBron James, if this was made
What if
6 years
Allen
later?
Iverson, because that's who Spike wanted.
Michael Jordan was still winning championships when this came out. And so he was obviously number one. And then you're right, I think Allen Iverson or Kobe Bryant might have been like the younger guys. But you're right, I think Ray Allen, it shouldn't have made a difference, but I don't know what would have changed this. That's the only thing I can think of, is that they've got like an A-list younger guy.
The controversy behind Iverson alone would have drew a bigger crowd, in my opinion.
I actually now have the answer to why it didn't.
Okay.
It didn't play anywhere internationally. It didn't make any money.
Yeah.
The number is 0.
Wow.
So the money that it made was domestic at $21,567,853. So that was all domestic. It did not get any international play.
All right. So we've come to the part of the show where we're all going to give our rating out of 4 stars for He Got Game. And as Reggie said earlier, Rotten Tomatoes, 82% from critics, 83% from fans. Metacritic gave it 64. So I'll go to you, Reggie. How many stars do you give He Got Game?
I'm giving this 3. I'll go. I enjoyed watching it again. I heard this from Ben first. He said, "Wow, it's so interesting watching this again." And then I heard Warren say the same thing. Watching it again, it mattered. It still matters. It matters. So I give it a solid 3. If you're looking for basketball, this is not the film. If you're looking for like, hey, let me see some great basketball, because that's not what it's about. But it is about the world of basketball, which makes it very, very relevant today.
Yeah. Warren, what about you? How many stars do you give this one?
I'm leeching onto that. I mean, it seems like the appropriate score, like something that you like enough, but you're not critically acclaiming it, so to speak.
Right.
So there's enough meat on the bone from the themes that are there, and the rewatchability, I think, even from just Denzel's performance as well, too. So I'm giving it a solid 3 as well.
And Ben, what about you?
I'll do 3 as well. And same thing. I think Spike Lee's cinematography, directing, Denzel Washington could like read a bill, and it's interesting. So you're gonna watch, you're gonna enjoy it. And I thought the supporting cast was really phenomenal. I liked the subject matter. It's really interesting to think about where we're at now with young athletes.
Yeah. If you would have asked me after I saw this film almost 30 years ago, I would have gave it 2 stars, because it was not my favorite Spike Lee movie. But after 3 rewatches, I'm going to go with you guys. I give it 3 stars. Yeah.
It just does.
Yeah.
It's like I'm sure we all watch things and judge things by like, well, if it's on like syndicated TV, will you like stop and watch it? And I don't know that I would stop and watch it. Like, I don't know that.
Right.
So I think, 3 seems good for what the film was trying to accomplish, through its themes.
Okay. All right. So Spike Lee gave us a story that still feels raw and relevant almost 30 years later, but we're not done traveling through basketball cinema just yet. Next episode, we head from the streets of Coney Island to the dirty recruiting wars of college basketball as we break down blue chips, from shady boosters to big time pressure, and one of the most underrated basketball performances in film. We're diving into everything that made that movie feel a little too real. So until next time, this is Hoops on Film, where basketball, history, culture, and cinema all meet at the rim. Take care.